Hello and welcome. I'm Rik Glauert and here's what happened this week. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen wrapped up a 10-day trip to the Americas. In California, she held a highly anticipated meeting with US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Leslie Liao travelled with the president and sent this report.
After countless reports, rumors, and a last-minute confirmation, a historic meeting. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen and U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy shake hands outside the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley near Los Angeles. A rare moment to reaffirm what has become a blossoming friendship in person.
I believe our bond is stronger now than at any time or point in my lifetime. And of course, President Tsai is a great champion of that bond.
It's a bond that Tsai has worked hard to nurture over her 7 years in power. She's the first president of Taiwan to meet a House Speaker on U.S. soil. And it's only the third time a Taiwan president has met a speaker in the U.S. or Taiwan since the two countries cut diplomatic ties in 1979.
In our efforts to protect our way of life, Taiwan is grateful to have the United States of America by our side. As we confront the unique challenges of our time.
Nearly 20 U.S. representatives from both the Democrat and the Republican parties met with Tsai.
I told President Tsai that the House Democrats will never abandon this relationship and will work hand in glove with the Biden administration to affirm our commitment.
The historical impact of this meeting is significant not just to Taiwan. The whole world is watching, with over 160 journalists at this event. And that heavy media presence is largely due to China. Beijing, which claims Taiwan as its own and hasn't ruled out the use of force to take it, made it clear it did not want this to happen.
坚决反对美国政府第3号人物众议长麦卡锡同蔡英文会见。
When Tsai met with then U.S. Speaker Nancy Pelosi in Taiwan last year, China launched unprecedented military drills around the island. But this time is different. Both Taiwan and the U.S. have worked hard to keep the visit low-key in a bid not to inflame tensions. The meeting was held in California, not Washington. Tsai's trip was framed merely as a stopover, and her public appearances were kept to a minimum. But McCarthy has not ruled out a Pelosi-style visit.
Are there any plans for you to come to Taiwan, or, is there any desire?
I don't have any current plans, but that doesn't mean I will not go. And if there comes a time that I go, I would not go as one party only. And I would not go for a simple purpose for myself.
And for Tsai, an opportunity to remind the world it must stand united to protect democracy.
We once again find ourselves in a world where democracy is under threat. And the urgency of keeping the beacon of freedom shining cannot be understated.
This meeting between Tsai and McCarthy is a landmark moment, a rare chance for Taiwan to stand on the global stage, and a clear signal of the friendship between Washington and Taipei. And if today is anything to go by, the two countries will stand by this crucial relationship, no matter the threats from China. Eason Sun and Leslie Liao in Simi Valley, California for TaiwanPlus.
While President Tsai was meeting with McCarthy, her predecessor Ma Ying-jeou was making a controversial visit to China. There, he said people in both the People's Republic of China and Taiwan are Chinese. For more on these two trips, James Chater spoke to Associate Professor of Political Science at the National University of Singapore, Jia Ian Chong, on the day of the meeting.
Kevin McCarthy said the US-Taiwan relationship is a matter of great importance to the free world. What's your initial reaction to this meeting between President Tsai and Kevin McCarthy?
In her time in office, President Tsai has really stabilized and built on US-Taiwan relations. Even though unofficial, there seems to be far more trust between the two sides. Contact is a lot more regular. And I think the other bit that's quite important is to sort of show that Taiwan and the United States, at least on a lot of these matters, are actually quite moderate, right? They shifted the meeting potentially from Taipei to California. And so any sort of potential for instability rests more with overreaction from Beijing more than anything else.
What happens now, do you think, and how far do you think China can really push now?
At this moment, I think things seem a little bit overdetermined in the sense that the Chinese side is also receiving President Macron and also EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. So I think to have a big flare-up at this point in time would undermine Beijing's efforts, ongoing efforts to do outreach towards Europe and other places. The other bit that I think it's useful to take note of is that as China increases its threats and continually coerces Taiwan, people on the island, they get accustomed to these sorts of things. So the effect of every additional point of coercion starts diminishing over time. And at some point, Beijing will have to ask itself whether it really wants to coerce more or whether it wants to escalate or try to accommodate.
This meeting is happening as former KMT President Ma Ying-jeou visits China and meets with some Communist Party officials. Which Taiwanese political party do you think is most likely to benefit from these two simultaneous meetings?
Now, the KMT is going to play up the potential that Tsai's visit to the U.S. and Tsai's handling of relations with the U.S. creates more instability. But I think that is a rather old narrative that doesn't have that much traction anymore. I guess one of the things they have going for them is that they've shown that more regular ties with the United States isn't this, apocalyptic, dangerous kind of activity. However, I think where they need also to be more cautious is to actually show that these sort of meetings aren't just purely symbolic, that they can actually deliver something for Taiwan. So for the KMT, their ability to connect with and communicate with the PRC is one thing. The question is, what does that deliver? And importantly, I think people in Taiwan will be asking whether the KMT can deliver not just on sort of practical, well, maybe there's a little bit more trade here, maybe there's a lifting of restrictions on Taiwan there, but whether they can commit the CCP to any sort of stronger forms of restraint, which unfortunately I don't think is quite possible at this point in time.
That was James Chater speaking with Jia Yinchong in Singapore. The founder of Apple supplier Foxconn wants to be Taiwan's next president. I reported on Terry Gore's announcement and what it could mean for the 2024 election. Terry Gore, the billionaire founder of Foxconn, which manufactures Apple products, arrives back in Taiwan after a trip to the US. And at the airport, a big announcement. He wants to be Taiwan's next president.
继续朝先进科技国家前进，是台湾人民跨世代的愿望，也是台民争取参选2024总统的动力。
This is not 72-year-old Gore's first bid for Taiwan's top job. In 2019, he lost out on the nomination for candidate for opposition party the Kuomintang, or KMT. He later quit the party, which he apologised for profusely as he made his bid to represent the KMT at next year's elections. Despite big wins in local elections last year, polls show support is slumping for a KMT presidency. The party is beset by controversy and infighting, but has said they will pick their candidate by mid-June. A high-profile figure like Gore could prove popular with voters.
在今天如此艰难的时刻，我身为一个怀有全球视野、拥有多方关系的国际企业人，我应该挺身而出，解决传统政治人物不能解决的危机。
Taiwan's ruling party, the Democratic Progressive Party, or the DPP, has only one candidate in mind. Vice President Lai Ching-te is seen as a natural successor to largely popular current President Tsai Ing-wen, who cannot run because of two-term limits.
Then sometimes it does play out as a kind of difference between pro-US and pro-China politics. And the DPP, as a historically pro-independence party, is now thought of as more pro-US. The KMT, as the pro-China party, or as having become the pro-China party, then is seen as more anti-US.
Gore says Taiwan doesn't have to choose between the two.
我们身处美中对抗的焦点，同时又是美中经济的连接点。台湾有条件成为化解美中对抗的关键影响力。
Presidential elections here in Taiwan are now less than 1 year away, and there's plenty at stake, from the rising cost of living to facing up to the threat from China. All eyes are now on the KMT and whether they think a figure like Gore can help turn things around for the party. Leon Lien and Rik Glauert in Taoyuan for TaiwanPlus. There are more than 700,000 migrant workers in Taiwan, and most of them need to use brokers to find jobs. As Bing Wong reports, many activists are saying this system is exploitative.
This confined space is where a Filipino migrant worker lives as a maid and caregiver for a Taiwanese family. She has to remain anonymous for fear of being fired. Like many of the 700,000 migrant workers in Taiwan, the 32-year-old single mother is here to make money to support her family back home.
I came here to Taiwan to have a work, right? Because salary wages there in the Philippines is very low, and I really need to take care of my family there to send help there.
Before coming to Taiwan 4 months ago, she signed a 3-year contract with a jobs broker that placed her into a Taiwanese home. The broker helped her get a visa and all the necessary documents to work in Taiwan. Over 95% of migrant workers use the system to find work. They must pay an initial recruitment cost and continuing monthly fees to the broker for the entirety of the contract.
Every month, we have a 2-year contract here, right? So every month, for the first year, we're paying 1,800 NT for the first year. For the second year, 1,700 NT. And for the third year, 1,500 NT.
The average monthly salary for a migrant caregiver is a little over 20,000 NT or $670 US. Broker fees account for almost 10% of the salaries. According to the 2022 Taiwan Human Rights Report by the U.S. State Department, some brokers exploit migrant workers with such high fees, leaving the workers burdened with debt. Researchers at the Taiwan International Workers Association, a migrant worker activist organization, say workers can also face many unexpected fees, some even owe their brokers up to $7,000 US. Migrant worker activists have called for the broker system to be abolished altogether.
The system is not only exploitatory, it's evil. This system just put the chains and shackles on migrant workers. They don't have freedom at all. They have to rely on the brokers totally. So from each move, they have, from the start, they have to rely everything on the brokers. They cannot do anything by themselves.
Taiwan's labor ministry is working with migrant workers' home countries so they can be hired directly and won't be stuck having to pay extravagant fees. But many of those countries require the use of brokers.
其实在来源国的部分有一些就是他们自己母国国内法的规定，他会去规定说有一些业别，他会强制说你一定要用这个中介的方式引进。
Migrants are essential to Taiwan's economy. They work as home caregivers, work in factories, and tackle dangerous fishery jobs. To try and attract more foreign talent, the Ministry of Labor announced last year it would ease measures for migrant workers to gain residency. That means more agency for them to choose where they live and where they work. But without dismantling the broker system and removing the middle person, that means it would make it even harder for migrant workers to send money back home and support their families. Ricky and Bing Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with more images of President Tsai Ing-wen's groundbreaking trip to the Americas. I'm Rik Glauert, take care and see you next week.